Hi all you treadle machine quilters out there. I'm going to show you how to make a string block with some scraps. This is what a string block looks like. When you put them all together you get a secondary pattern. That's really cool. And it starts with a base of either muslin or paper. I chose paper. My base, I've chosen an 8.5 inch square. It can be any size square. It's up to you. And you draw a line from point to point on the square, and that's your first sew line. You also draw a line just 1/4 inch away from it, and that's your seam allowance line. So here's how we get started. So I have a pile of scrap here, all different size strips, things that have been leftover binding and leftover piping pieces and off of the edges of quilts, that kind of thing. Just whatever I had left. I like to cut them up into strips and put them in a bag and then do this with them. So I have two pieces that are kind of long, and I'm going to use them in the center. And what you want to do with your two pieces is put them right sides together and match up the raw edge, which is going to be on your sew side. So I put them underneath the paper and I match up the raw edge with the dotted line. It's sticking out at the bottom a little bit and it's sticking out at the top a little bit. And I match it up on the dotted line because I need some seam allowance. So now when it's time to sew, I'm just going to bring it on over here and I'm going to start sewing on the solid line from point to point. And you want to use a short stitch because you're stitching through paper and you want to be able to rip the paper off when you're all done. This round knob right here is your stitch length. It's not an oil port. I heard some people saying it might be an oil port. It's not. And all it does is screw in and screw out. And when you turn it clockwise, you're tightening it and it's screwing in. Now it's as close to the machine as it can be. And that's going to give me a really long stitch length. And so I'm going to unscrew it, so counterclockwise. And it's going to shorten my stitch length. If I came all the way out here, I mean, you can come way, way out, but you can't take it out of the machine. It's going to stop at a point. And that's as far out as it'll go. And my feed dogs are not going to move hardly at all when I'm stitching with the stitch length at that point. So let's see. It's not moving. It's staying in one place. And that's the setting that you'd want when you're doing free motion quilting with the darning foot. So that's obviously too short. So I'm going to screw it in and try it a little again. Okay, they're little stitches, but I think I want them a little bit longer, so I'm going to screw it in a little more. And there we go. That's a good size stitch. If you're using a muslin, you don't have to rip it off at the end. Just leave it on there. It'll just make your quilt a little thicker. So I start treadling, and I have to make sure my treadle hand wheel is coming towards me. And I go all the way to the end of the line. Just sew right off the end. And that's the first piece. It's as simple as that. And then what you do is you're going to flip it over, and from now on we're going to work on the fabric side instead of the paper side. So you open up your piece and you press it. I'm going to just finger press it. I'm going to use my fingernail here. Because you want it to be laying nice and flat. If you're handy to an iron, use an iron. Or use a roller, a wood roller. So once you get them out like that, now you're going to work from the center out to the points. And you're just going to keep adding pieces however you decide you like them. So I like this floral piece. I'm going to put it right sides together against the blue, and it's long enough. It can make it to the paper on both ends, so that's good. And then you're just going to eyeball 1/4 inch seam. Our feet on the antique machine, the one that the machine came with originally, is an 1/8 inch. So I'm going to let it hang out another 1/8 of an inch past that for my 1/4 of an inch seam. And if it's not perfect, that's okay too. Just keep it straight. Pull it off your machine. Check your stitches. They look like they're coming out fine. And then you press that open. I like that combination. And then you can pick another color. Oh my goodness, that's really wide. Wow, and that's bright. I kind of like bright. I'm going to go with the bright one. It is a scrap quilt, so you're going to have a lot of different fabrics in here. Don't get caught up in the matchy-matchy if you can help it. Of course, some people probably will end up buying yardage to do this and make sure it matches, and that's okay too. I like to use up scrap. There you go. Let's start working on the other side a little bit. I think I like this gold. It's awful wide. I think I want it half the width. I'm just going to cut it in half. I don't want it to be that wide. I want a skinny little strip of gold. And it's a plaid, so it's easy to cut right on that line. So I'm going to do a skinny little gold strip next to my green. Bring some warmth into the block. You can cut up old clothes. You can put all kinds of fabrics in these strip quilts and these string quilts. You can put in corduroy and denim and velvet and satin. It doesn't really matter. Flannel and fleece. You can put anything in here. Don't you miss? I miss the automatic threader when I'm working on my antiques. There we go. And so there's another piece. Let's see what else we got here. Ooh, I love this. I think I'm going to put that next to the gold. And let's see what that looks like. Oh, wonderful. This one's really wide. It might actually fill up that corner. Oh, just about will make it. Let's see if we can make the corner. Oh, I keep pulling this thread out, huh? Alright, so we're going to give this a try and see if it fills up that corner. If not, we can always use another piece. And it makes it to the corner of the paper. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, now for the other side. And if these extra pieces seem like they're getting in your way, just turn it over and cut them. You can cut them right to the edge of the paper, or you can just cut them close and then go back with your rotary cutter and your mat and cut them next to the paper. This will keep them from getting sewn back into the back if you can cut them out of the way. Some of them are too small to reuse and some of them are good, so I put them back in the pile to reuse. Okay, so we just have to worry about this last side. It looks like it only needs one piece. If I can find a wide enough, I don't know if I want to go white. It's awful light on one end. Ooh, I like this blue. And I think it'll make it right to the edge. My goodness. I don't know how many times I've threaded this. Okay, so now we'll do that blue piece. And that should be the end of that. And that makes it past my corner too. So now I can cut this for real by doing it with my rotary cutter. So I'm just going to flip it over and I'm going to use the edge of my paper as a guide and I'm going to chop those off. And there it is, a trimmed string block. So you can put these together in all kinds of ways and they make a great secondary pattern. Check out what I did with the class at Westford Academy.